I am very intrigued to see what Troy Aikman has to say about Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
I think there are some similarities in Troy Aikman. To me, never got his just due because of the talent around him.
Right.
And I'm guilty of, diminishing his greatness.
I thought Troy was really good.
Right.
I thought Troy was special.
But I want to see what Brock Purdy looks like tonight without some of the weaponry. And you heard Joe Buck, and I don't think it's a knock on Brock. I'm intrigued to see it because I think he could shut a lot of the people up.
Well,
and I think he can kind of tamp down any of the negative thoughts regarding him. Like, when I think of the Josh Allens and the Burrows, and there's not a doubt in your mind that when they're down a playmaker, you still fear them exactly the same.
They can make
you
a
still
play.
believe like that guy's going to pull a rabbit out of his hat somehow, some way. And when I think of Russell Wilson for so long, a decade, part of why I thought he was so great is it didn't matter who was on the field.
Right.
When he dropped back, I was like, sack him, sack him, sack him, sack him.
He's going to make a play.
He's going to make a play. And I'm very interested to see what Brock looks like tonight. I'm interested to hear how these commentators talk about him tonight. And, can you do this with guys missing? That's what separates the true franchise quarterbacks from just the good.
Yep. Can you lead this team without your premium playmakers? But there's another thing with Brock and this offense and what Brandon Ayuk, and you keep hearing system quarterback. System quarterback. He's a system quarterback. And I always push back saying, well, a quarterback has to run some sort of system. They're all system quarterbacks. They all are running the plays that are called.
Yeah.
They're running, they have a playbook. They run the plays within the playbook. Yes. But when plays break down, what can you do? When that first, second, and third read is taken away, what can you do? And that's where Brock is at his best, where he's at his best. When a play does break down, that play will remain alive. The first read, second read, okay, fine. But last week, Brock had a lot of things to clean up. And that's why, whether or not he's a system quarterback, I don't care about that stuff. It's, can you play clean football? Because last week I saw some bad habits, and they're starting to catch up to him. Throwing over the middle of the field. Everybody knows Shanahan loves those routes over the middle of the field.
Linebackers.
There's slants, drags, crossing routes. But he threw about 5 no throws last week. 5 no throws that could have ended that game a lot earlier than instead of coming down to the last play of the game.
Was it, because I have a thought, was it accuracy for you? Was it not seeing the field? Was it the anticipation?
No, I think some of the anticipation was there, but he was late.
Yes.
And the ball placement.
Yes.
You cannot throw behind guys in the middle of the field. It's just a no-no.
Just even a tick late is an interception.
A tick late, a deflection happens. You're in the middle of the field. Ball's bouncing around. There's linebackers, there's safeties, there's corners. Your ball placement has to be on point when you're throwing over the middle of the field. And if you're late throwing over the middle of the field, it better be low and into the turf. Because if it's high like it was last week, then they're going to turn it over. And one thing this Minnesota team doesn't need is to force some turnovers. Their defense is middle of the pack.
Yeah.
They're going to give up a lot of yards. They're going to blitz, and we know Brock Purdy's very good against the blitz. So can he beat the blitz without some of those premium assets in Deebo Samuel and maybe a compromised Christian McCaffrey? But the biggest thing is what Joe Buck said in that interview was that Christian McCaffrey's going to go.
Yeah, that was, he basically was like, yeah, he's going. Because I said game time decision, and he's like, no, he's going to play.
He's going to play. But
it sounds like he said Trent would not. They're going to be
Trent's
down their left tackle. Now, again, we're going off of the guy who's been behind team meetings, interviewing these people. So
Trent's
no
not
Trent,
gonna play.
And CMC's going to play.
No Trent Williams. Let's go to Johnny in 831 and wants to talk about this is going to be a tough game.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
They're flirting with danger here on a variety of levels.
Johnny in the 813 or 831. What's up, Johnny?
Hey, Johnny.
Hey, Vontae Shasky, how you guys doing?
Good morning, man. Doing good.
Did you guys see who was standing behind Taylor Swift in the press box yesterday?
Jackson Mahomes?
Yes, and he's up for sexual assault.
Yeah. That's in the hands of the legal system. I can't do anything about that. What would you like us to say about that, Johnny? Johnny? Is that why you called? I mean,
he had a completely different point to make when we screened him. So
it's okay.
What was that? And what was that?
You want to talk about Christian McCaffrey, and so it's like, okay, yeah, you can talk about that. And then I guess he called an audible.
Okay, he was offended with Jackson Mahomes being in the booth. I wasn't really paying attention to the booth.
Well, what I was paying attention to was the amount of targets that Travis Kelce got yesterday. And I'm looking at that guy, and I'm saying to myself, the way that they utilize him is not going to be the way that the Niners utilize Kittle. But can you be more in that direction as opposed to what we've seen the last couple of weeks? We were talking about it earlier in the show, Bonte, where there was someone did a deep dive on all the times Kittle stayed in to actually block.
Right.
Or, when he did run a route, was he chipping? And if you're chipping, you're not going to be a primary read on a particular target because of how ferocious the pass rush was for Cleveland. So you're the third, fourth option on a given play. I need him to be more of a primary target this week. To me, this is an Ayuk, Kittle, feed my stars type of a game.
Well, can you even be Mark Andrews?
Boy,
Mark Andrews from Baltimore. 4 catches, 63 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 targets. Just be Mark Andrews. Forget trying to be Kelsey and catching 12 passes for, what did Kelsey have, $179 last night?
Yeah, but I mean more just the focal point of your team's offense.
Right. Just
more of it. That's
it's got to be more than 2 targets.
That's what I'm saying.
It's got to be more than 2 targets. Going back to quarterbacks for a second, Jay Gruden, I guess, joined Willard and Dibbs last week. And we're going to see Kirk Cousins or Brock Purdy. And they asked Jay Gruden, who would you rather have at quarterback, Brock Purdy or Kirk Cousins?
I'm thinking Kirk. I mean, the proof is he's got a lot more games under his belt. They always take the veteran guy who's been there, done that. Kirk, the amazing thing about Kirk is he's not a real big guy, but he's the most durable guy around. I mean, has he ever missed a game? I don't even know if he has. And he takes a lot of shots. He stands in there. He's very accurate. He's very diligent in how he prepares. He's super smart. And I just know more about Kirk. I mean, Brock has still a very unfinished product. They got a great career ahead of them, but I'm going to take the given. I'm going to take the guarantee, and I know Kirk can play.
All right. How many quarterbacks could have success like Purdy in this offense?
That's hard to say. Quite a few, to be honest with you. It's just because it's not so much the system, it's the players around. I'm a big believer in it's not about the plays, it's about the players. And when you have Debo and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams, I mean, it's hard not to devise a plan that will have some kind of success, right? I mean, these guys are all great players. So as long as those guys stay healthy, there's a number of guys that can perform. But Brock is doing it at a very high level. He's playing very efficient football. He's not taking a lot of sacks, and he's not turning the ball over. And that's huge. You never know. You bring somebody else in, they get a little greedy, throw some picks, and it changes the course of the momentum in the game. So you got a guy that's very efficient and very productive right now. I'm not saying that it's easy because he has great players, but I am saying that there are some quarterbacks that come in and I think do some similar jobs. Same thing in Miami, really. I mean, you look at Miami, how many guys could go into Miami and throw to, Tyreek Hill and Waddle and Mozart?
It's almost like that's a backhanded compliment.
It does feel very
Doesn't it feel like a backhanded compliment to Brock?
I don't think that's fair, though, because, he's looked flawless. Last week was the first week, over a month, where it's like, oh, multiple interceptable plays. Right? He's been near flawless up until the Cleveland game.
Right.
So, and you can say, Joe, it's a small sample size. Yes, you're right. He hasn't played a full NFL season. I'm just going off of the 35 dropbacks.
Right.
How many are interceptable?
Right.
How many times when he drops back does he walk into a sack? How many times does he make a big negative play for his offense, putting them behind the sticks?
Right. No, I
think he deserves more credit than we're giving him.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm kind of with you
but
there.
You can see,
it's a backhanded compliment, but Jay Gruden is a former coach.
The Sharks are circling.
And there's a lot of fans like TC, like Rob San Bruno, who are going to be watching this game saying, we don't want to hear the excuses. Because the one thing is with Jimmy Garoppolo, and we heard it from Joe Buck, they did win a lot of games with Jimmy Garoppolo. And he didn't have weapons like this.
Well, and did you hear the way Buck said it? They really had to scheme things up for Jimmy.
Right, they did.
They had intimate knowledge. They had to doctor it up.
Yeah, they had to switch some things up. And Jimmy's not even playing with the Raiders. Raiders looked terrible yesterday in Chicago. But there are a lot of people who want to see Brock do it without his guys. And so you still have George Kittle. You still have Brandon Ayuk. So this is a big game individually for a lot of guys. It's a big game for the 49ers as a whole, just to stay on pace, keep pace with the Philadelphia Eagles, but also individually for Brock, individually for Nick Bosa. All right?
Kyle.
Brandon Ayuk. It's a huge game for him.
Why is it a big game for Brandon Ayuk?
Because he's going to be due for a contract. What does that money look like? Is it number one wide receiver money? Is it number 2 wide receiver money? What does it look like from Brandon Ayuk tonight as the quote-unquote number 1 wide receiver? He could go out there and put himself on the map.
That's a good point.
It's a big stage for him. So can you be that guy to say, Can Brendan Ayuk go up to Brock Purdy and say, hey, just give me a chance to make a play? I'm going to make it.
When you watch Puka Nacua by himself, you were like, oh, he's that dude. Like, he's their number one.
No doubt.
With not a lot else. I mean, I know Tutu was out there, and then Cooper Kupp comes back, and Puka's still making plays.
Puka's still making plays.
Right.
They're all making plays.
That proved a lot to me.
Right. A.J. Brown making plays.
Well, A.J. Brown's.
You look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Travis Kelce is playing with a bunch of tier 3, tier 4 wide receivers.
McCole Hardman. These are all threes.
Rasheed Rice.
Yeah, these are all threes.
3s or 4s.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce's still balling.
When I watch Tyreek Hill, even when Waddle's in and out of that game, Tyreek Hill's that dude.
Tyreek Hill's he is that dude.
Even on a game where they bottled him up, he had 10 catches for 90 yards.
Right.
And they bottled him up.
Let's go to BPA. BPA. Brian in Palo Alto. What's happening, man? You're on the roast. Yeah.
Morning, guys. How you doing?
Morning, man.
Morning.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure the Niners are good enough to win a Super Bowl as currently constructed, and my concern is not Brock Purdy. I don't know if you watched that Philly game last night.
We did.
We watched it.
But
trenches.
Go look at our offensive line pass blocking win rates, and then look at that Philly defensive line. And I don't know. I mean, it's hard to conceive that we could possibly block them, given how poorly our offensive line is playing right now. And so for me, it's the offensive line, and it's the second corner spot.
I agree.
To me, are pretty glaring. There's glaring issues there, and if they're going to stay put with $40 million in cap room and all that draft capital, then they should say, hey, we're probably not going to win it this year, so let's not make a move anyways. And if they are truly all in, then they need to make some moves. Because, by the way, Philly is out looking to make moves.
They are. Howie Roseman will not.
Julio Jones.
Yeah.
They're looking to add another corner.
They're not done. No.
And so, if you're going to say you're all in, then be all in, right? And this is my primary criticism of the Shanahan era, right? It's like, we're all in, but just, not that one spot, right?
Well, yeah. They are bold, though. You got to give them credit. They have been bold.
It's hard to shore up all your flaws.
I mean, I just look at Philly, honestly, I'm just being objective. They look like a better roster.
They do.
Hey, BPA, their defensive line, as you talk about, I texted the thread last night.
That guy, how about that? How about letting Hargrave walk and then drafting Carter?
An upgrade. Somehow
upgrade. I feel like.
Have anyone heard? Yeah.
No, I was going to say
Hargrave's name in a while.
Yeah, well, good call, BPA. Good call.
Well, that's a matchup I was looking at later tonight.
Well, Hargrave's got to dominate tonight.
Well,
but I feel like Howie Roseman pulled a Don Nelson. And what I mean by that is when Tim Hardaway Sr. entered the NBA draft, Don Nelson was telling everybody, hey, you don't want to take this Hardaway guy. His knee's screwed up. And the next thing you know, the Warriors are on the board. Guess who he selects? Tim Hardaway Sr.
So you think the Jalen Carter vehicle thing?
Well, I think Philadelphia had no problem with that being the story because he was the number one pick throughout the football season.
By far.
And then the character issues or what happened in Georgia.
Trent Baalke's drafting number one overall.
Yeah, well,
then he'll miss on you and he'll take someone else.
But you know what? Jacksonville's won 4 in a row.
I know, but they could have had Hutchinson.
Well, they're figured it out. They've won 4 in a row.
It also helps when the Eagles have the entire Georgia defensive line, basically.
But they got Hassan Reddick. They got Sweat.
That's what I'm saying.
They had Fletcher Cox.
I'm saying it's good to bring him in because they have all of his college teammates that can vouch for him.
No doubt. And so Philadelphia was like, we'll get him around Fletcher Cox. We'll get him around Big Play Slay. We'll get him around Jason Kelce. He'll be a professional. We'll get him around some of these Georgia guys.
They were trying to, the Niners, replicate that 2019 defensive line. Dee Ford, DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, and Nick Bosa. And it feels like they've just been a tick below that. And I thought that the Javon Hargrave acquisition was a great one.
It has been good.
It's been
He's
great
been solid. He's been very good.
Armstead's been kind of quiet, and that guy opposite Bosa, we need Randy Gregory to pop.
Yeah.
And that's an area you absolutely need to. And I'm telling you, I'm looking at the middle of this offensive line. Cleveland, Bradbury, and Ingram for Minnesota against Eric Armstead and Javon Hargrave. They've got to have big games. And then on the outside, O'Neal and Darisaw against Bosa. Bosa's got to find a way to get some stunts going here. I need some sack numbers. You got to rattle Kirk Cousins.
I thought, Houston, Texas, they took Will Anderson Jr., obviously quarterback to the Colts. Good. Devon Witherspoon with Seattle, the corner out of Illinois.
So good.
I thought they were going to take Jalen Carter. Paris Johnson Jr. goes to Arizona. The Raiders take Tyree Wilson. Has Tyree Wilson done anything this year?
Got his first sack yesterday.
Oh, good for him.
Yay.
Sack strip fumble on Nate Peterman on a end of the game or end of the half Hail Mary.
Wow. Jalen Carter goes 9 overall. I believe, Philadelphia got Jalen Carter 9 overall. So to BPA's point, and it's something I said a couple years ago or a couple weeks ago, and everybody got on me on Twitter about this. It's like the Eagles are the top dog right now. It's fine. They have what it takes inside. Brindle, Burford, and McKivitz against that defensive line. I don't feel good about that. But good thing is they play Minnesota tonight, not Philadelphia.